Nelson Mandela was a South African lawyer, anti-apartheid activist, political scientist, and philanthropist. Nelson Mandela was born on July 1918 in Sebo, Cape Province, Union of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was married three times. He married Evelyn Mays in 1944 and divorced her in 1957. Then he married Winnie Madikizela in 1958 and divorced her in 1996. Finally, he married with Graham Machel in 1988. With this last one, he lived the last years of his life until his death in 2013. Nelson Mandela had no siblings, as his father did at an early age. He had 6 children, four of them with his first wife, and the other two with his second wife. Nelson's clothing style was at first suits like any other politician, but later Nelson popularized printed shirts that became the symbol of South Africa. The print shirts became associated with the figure of Mandela and were given the name Madiba. Nelson Mandela was the first black president of his home country. Not only that, he came to power in the first universal suffrage elections in South Africa. Nelson Mandela's mandate lasted from 1944 to 1999 and was characterized by his tendency towards national reconciliation and peaceful coexistence, from power and faithful to his principles. He also gave space to the opposition. Nelson's presidency marked before and after in the history of South Africa. Nelson, together with Oliver Tambo, legally defended the black race. In Johannesburg, he opened a law firm dedicated to defending the rights of the segregated people. The legal strides were more than difficult as the country's regulations were not based on equality. One of the most terrible examples of the time was that white witnesses were allowed to refuse to answer questions to a black lawyer. Nelson Mandela succeeded in eradicating racism in his country, but it cost him dearly and he unpaid a prison sentences his movement. Years later, Nelson was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Nelson Mandela died on December 5th, 2013, at the age of 95 in Johannesburg, surrounded by his family. His death due to a too long respiratory infection. Mandela was a very private person. He hid his emotion and trusted very few people. Nelson Mandela lived an austere life. Nelson hated tobacco and alcohol, and he had the peculiarity of arranging his bed and his room by himself, even when He held the position of president. Nelson was known for his good sense of humor, although there were people who labeled him as stubborn. Nelson loved sport and was an ambassador of rugby in his country. Many people considered him to be a friendly and cordial man. He was always very relaxed, even with his opponents.